Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryann Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Uncensored Self. I am your host, Ryann Gillen, and today we are going to talk about normalizing your desires. If you want a life that blows your mind, if you want a business that blows your mind, if you want to experience your life in a completely different way, you are going to have to normalize that way. And I'm going to dive into exactly how to do that today, why this is important, and tie together the last couple of weeks, right? So we started 2 weeks ago talking about the power of your decision, right? You get to decide your experience, specifically for the women on this podcast, of business and life. What experience are you have? You're making a decision. And then last week I answered the question, well, why isn't it here yet? Right? And I told you some of your power leaks. And this is the kind of, I don't know if this is the end of this particular series, but it's the progression of the series. We need to start normalizing the things that we want, right? Because if the life, the business, the body, the relationship, the money that you want in your life, it feels outlandish, it feels dramatic, it feels so different than what you're experiencing today, that is giving us the information. This is not a problem. I want to be clear. It's giving us the information that you are not an energetic match to it. You have pedestalized it. It's this dream that, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing if, instead of normalizing it. So the definition of normal is that your dream life, your dream reality, it shouldn't feel like a shock. It should feel like the next logical step in your life. So let's talk about this. I have a ton of examples. I have a ton of stories, and we're going to have a good conversation. If you want to know the how behind this, how do we actually normalize? It is my identity practice that is linked in the bio. It is completely free. It is the how. I give this to every client. This is where we work. This is what we work on in our coaching. So if you haven't grabbed that yet, please go grab it. So here's the thing. When I was 60 pounds overweight, right, working 60 hours a week and an absolute slave to my business, which I talk about a lot, right, it was totally normal at the time to work all of the time, to be stressed out all the time, to constantly be thinking about the business, working about the business, worrying about the business all of the freaking time. So if you had told me at the time, Ryan, you can make the same amount of money working 20 hours a week with dream clients that you love, that felt fucking insane. From that place to today, my life is dramatically different. But at the time, if you had said, Ryan, this was available to you, I would have been like, isn't that fucking nice? I have no idea. Like, it was just so different. I couldn't even imagine it yet, right? A lot of people will tell me that, Ryan, I couldn't even imagine that life. And I always say, that's where we start. When we talk about building your dream life, you have to be able to imagine it, because if you can't even imagine it, you can't call it in. If you can't normalize it, you can't call it in, right? And I want to explain what happened. And this is a big part of what happened on the year that I made $1 million and I couldn't sustain it, right? It was because it wasn't normal. It was something that I had done, I had pushed, I had efforted, I had tried hard, I had abandoned myself in every way, shape, or form. I had worked myself into the ground. I had created that $1 million in a completely and total misaligned way. So it wasn't normal. It felt like, holy fucking bananas, I just blew my own goddamn mind and I hated every moment of it. So there was no energetic infrastructure to hold it. Right? I like to say it was strong-armed, it was forced, and it led to misery. And you know, I instantly snapped back to baseline because it wasn't the normal progression. I have a lot of women that I talk to that tell me this, like, I had a successful business at one point in time. I was making more money. I had the biggest year of my life. I had the biggest opportunity of my life, but I couldn't sustain it. This is why, because it wasn't the normal progression. Your identity didn't support it. You had efforted your way to a result, which I tell you often on this podcast. I believe in wholeheartedly. You can effort your way to anything. It just sucks. And so for me, my $1 million year came from effort. It came from saying yes when I wanted to say no, saying no when I wanted to say yes. It came from doing whatever it fucking took, no matter how terrible it was. It was not normal. It was awful. So in that regard, that's why it wasn't sustained. My identity couldn't support it. It wasn't a normal part of my life. It was an outlier. And that's why I instantly snapped back to baseline. So I want to tell you a story, right? I'm going to tell you a lot of stories in this podcast because I think this is where this is going to click for you. So I'm going to do more storytelling than teaching, but I think this is going to land for you. So a client of mine who actually started in business therapy, which is now Free and Rich, in April of 2025. She's now a private client. She recently bought her dream car that I think we started working and talking about in April of 2025, right? So we're talking about 15, 16 months at this point in the game, right? And what she wanted, and at the time, again, it felt outlandish, where she was financially, all all the different things. She was like, holy bananas, that's wild, right? But last week she got that car. Last week she went and picked that car up. And she told me, she messaged me and she said, it felt exciting. It felt delightful. Like, I love it. And I'm so excited about it, but it didn't feel like, oh my God, this is insane. I don't belong in this car, right? It didn't feel like an unachievable leap. It felt like the natural progression. Of course, this is my car. But because she had spent the last year energetically being the person who drives that car, thinking about it, feeling into it, playing around with it, practicing being that person. So when she got it, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It was like, of course, this is my fucking car, right? That is what I mean by normalize it. And so when you think of your dream life, your dream business, your dream bank account, your dream relationship, your dream body, if it still has that euphoric, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine, it's just telling us we haven't thought about it enough. We haven't practiced enough. And we are certainly not the woman who can hold it. And some of you right now are making that a problem. I don't want you to make that a problem. It's never a problem. Remember what I told you on last week's podcast. What you want is done. The desire that you have, if your desire is $1 million business and that feels outlandish, it doesn't mean that $1 million business isn't meant for you. It just means you haven't practiced being a person who runs $1 million business yet. So it doesn't make sense in your brain, but we can make it make sense in your brain by practicing those thoughts, right? I'm going to give you a couple of examples in my own life, right? Very recently, over the weekend, before I'm recording this about a week before you'll listen to it, I hit 10,000 TikTok followers. And of course, I was excited because seeing that like 10K, like the numbers go from like the nines to like 10K, it doesn't show you the numbers anymore. So like I was excited about it. I celebrated it. I screenshotted it. I shared it with Derek. But the internal reaction was, of course, right? Like I get new followers every single day. My audience is growing every single day. Of course, 10,000 people are following me, but because I have practiced the thoughts of thinking that my content is great, my work is valuable, people want to hear from me, this is important, women need this, they're hungry for this, they're ready for this, they're praying for this, they're looking for this, they're seeking it out. There are women who want and need this. That is the way that I feel about it. So hitting 10,000 followers, while it's a very exciting milestone, it was just the natural next step of the woman who shares content that is valuable and important and that women want it, right? I'm going to give you another example, right? So I started my GLP-1 journey in March of 2024. And so now currently I microdose. I don't take a full dose anymore. I do microdose it. And I recently had set a goal at the time. I was at 240 pounds when I said it. And I wanted to be 175 pounds because 175 pounds was it's the weight that's on my driver's license. It's been on my driver's license probably since I was 20 something years old, right? And last week, so I had been teetering right around like 178, 179 pounds. And I've been there for several months now. And I've been totally fine with it, not stressed out about it, like wasn't freaking out about it in any way, shape, or form. But a couple of weeks ago, I got on the scale and I had 174.8 pounds. And again, I didn't have that euphoric feeling. It felt like, of course, because my daily identity of walking, of boxing, of drinking lots of water, of stretching and doing yoga and moving my body well and fueling my body for performance and fueling my body like I love her and support her was just normal. So of course, the scale has the weight on it that I want. The identity was already established, the same as that. So when the identity is already established, the achievement of the dream, of the goal, of the desire is the natural next step. When the identity is not established, it feels euphoric and out of reach, and we naturally have the fear of losing it. If you have the fear of losing what you haven't established the identity. I've never said that before. That was really valuable. Play that back. If every time you have a really good month, you are afraid that you can't hold it, or you get an opportunity, or whatever it is for you, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to duplicate this? It is a sign that your identity isn't supporting it, that you have created that you've created it through your desire, but also through probably a lot of effort, a lot of force, a lot of hard work. So if you are afraid of losing what you have accomplished, it simply means your identity doesn't support it. But when your identity supports it, achieving that goal, having that life, logical next step. So how do we normalize it? How do we normalize our dream reality? So for me, I can only use my own examples, right? Is the $10 million business. So I've been saying to you guys for several weeks and months now that I run a $10 million business doing only things that I love. My P&L does not show that yet. And that is because I have to normalize that large of a number. I don't come from money. I don't have a background of money. I don't have a lot of rich, wealthy people in my life. I don't know a lot of people running $10 million businesses. So it is not my day-to-day reality to think like that. So I am choosing to deliberately think on that as on purpose, right? So a $10 million year is right around, $833,333 a month, if we're being exact, right? So I can't be blown away by a $250,000 a month if my target is $833,000 a month, right? Like that has to feel normal. So I have to start thinking about and I have been thinking about the energetic infrastructure of my $10 million business. I can no longer be mind blown about that. I need to think about those numbers. I need to think about how many clients does that look like? And again, it is current state. When I look at that number of clients, I can't quite see it yet, but I'm normalizing it, normalizing having thousands of people in my program, normalizing people signing up every day and money coming in every single day, and normalizing having a staff full of people who supports me and who those people are. I have been thinking through the logistics now, right? What staff is needed, what technology is required, what does that high payroll feel like? I am normalizing all of those things now, so I actually have the infrastructure to support it instead of getting there and freaking out and feeling like I don't fucking belong, right? I'm having to normalize charging higher rates. I've been telling you guys on the podcast, I'm raising all of my rates. Why am I raising my rates? Because when I run a $10 million business, I'm no longer offering, a $2,000 program, right? My work is that fucking good. And I also want to be clear, because there's some people that are going to take issue with this, and I'm prepared for it, right? Where it's like, oh, you're just raising your rates because you want to make more money. No, I'm raising my rates because my work has always been worth those rates. My identity didn't match charging those rates, right? My current rates match my current identity. Yours probably do as well, right? I go through this a lot with my clients who don't necessarily set their own rates. Maybe they're employees who are getting that, or they're realtors, or they're business owners in different ways that aren't setting their own rates necessarily. But I have a client who runs a home services businesses. And so one of the things she's scaling to $1 million. And one of the things we're doing is normalizing a higher job size, right? That you work with. Your average job size is $1,000 to $3,000. Well, to get where you want to go, we want to raise that. We want to raise our average job size to $5,000. And so we have to start normalizing what that looks like, what it looks like to put on her calendar, what it looks like to staff for it, right? So as I charge my rates, right, I have to normalize that. I have to normalize making larger investments in myself. It's why I started working with Stacey B again, because Stacey B just challenges my brain in that way. It is a much bigger investment. I have to show up in a different way. Being in rooms with high earners until I no longer feel like a kid at the adult table. And the first time I hit $1 million, I'm going to be honest with you, I felt like a little kid sitting at the adult table, that I used to be at the kids table, and now I was invited to sit at the big kid table, and I was not prepared to sit at the adult table, right? I was not prepared to sit there. So for now, as I think about this $10 million business, I am preparing myself to make those investments, to have that payroll, to look like that, normalizing the ideas of large amounts of money transferring in and out of my accounts, holding on it, sitting on it, receiving it, charging it, talking about it. All of that has to be completely normal before my identity supports a $10 million business. Okay. So again, this is going to be different for everyone. This is what I go deep into in my coaching. I can't give you all of the examples here, but really normalizing and thinking about it. So let's talk about normalizing the physical upgrades, right? Meaning the actual material upgrades. So I also, as part of my vision, I have a very clear vision of what my life looks like as we grow. And one of the things that we are currently calling in is a car. I know exactly what I want my new car to be. Current state, I'm going to tell you what it is. Space for it to change, because I'm always a this and something better. And I know right now there are so many new cars coming out that are going to support this. But current state, if I were to buy a car right now, I would buy a Toyota Sequoia. I would buy a fully loaded Toyota Sequoia. What I really want is I want the 4Runner, but I need 7 passengers because I have 2 kids and dogs and all the things. We need the space, our lifestyle, what we want, all of this. So the first thought when looking at a higher sticker price, so I go online and I look at the car and I pull it up, and it is a $90,000 car. I've never purchased a $90,000 car before, right? So the initial thought was, holy bananas, I've never purchased a $90,000 car before. So what am I doing now? I'm normalizing it. I normalize it by deliberately looking at cars with even higher prices, right? I normalize it by thinking like, I want it fully loaded. I want everything on it. I want it to feel normal to buy a $90,000 car. I want it to just be the logical next step of course, this is my car. So I went and I test drove the car, right? I will probably go test drive the car once a quarter until I buy one. And I'm in no rush to buy the car. If the car were to materialize next month, great. But for me, this is really about being the woman who drives that car, who walks into the lot and says, I want that one. Not the most affordable one, not the one that fits into my payments, not the one that, you have on the lot, but this exact fucking car. I've been building it on the website. I am normalizing driving that car. I'm normalizing being in that car. I imagine being in that car. I visualize being in that car. I'm normalizing the physical upgrade before it arrives. Another thing that I'm working on energetically is our house remodel, right? So in the past, whenever I wanted to do any kind of updates or anything like that to my life, I was always looking for the most efficient way to do it, right? The budget cuts, DIYs, make it cheaper. We could just get this instead of this. I know we want hardwoods, but we can get that linoleum that looks like hardwood. And not, if you're doing that, I'm not shaming you, but like, I have decided when I remodel this house, it is not going to be about the money. It's going to be exactly what I fucking want, because we made the decision that we're going to stay in this house until my kids graduate high school. George is a second grader, right? So I got a little bit of time. A little bit of time to live in this house. So I want it to be my dream house, and deciding to go all out, no expense spared. What I want is what I want. Obviously, I'm not talking about being irresponsible with investing so much money in the house that I can't recoup it. I just mean that, like, if I like the most expensive, tile backsplash, that's what I want to buy. So what I have been doing is I went and got the Pinterest board, and I'm intentionally practicing not thinking about the money. I'm just like, oh, I like that, and I like this, and I like that, and I like this, and thinking about what do I want, not how much does it cost. So these are just ways that I am normalizing moving large amounts of money. So do you see how these two things? I want to run a $10 million business, so I'm normalizing the business expenses, but I'm also normalizing being the woman who buys a $90,000 car and starts looking at what's probably going to be a 6-figure remodel of my home, right? I have to start thinking about those things. Am I ready to go out and make all of those investments today? No, I am not at all in the physical 3D with my current resources prepared to make those investments. But if I never prepare to make those investments, if I never normalize those investments, if I never dream and play and design, then those investments are never available to me. This is where so many people get stuck. And this might be another power leak that we can add in later, is you only think as big as your current bank account or as big as your current earnings. And this is a big power leak, right? Because you think, okay, well, this is what's in my bank account now. This is what I can afford now. So I'm not going to dream past now. But why not, right? Why would you not dream past now, other than you just anticipate having the exact same experience? And this is what most people do. They anticipate having the exact same, money is always hard for me. Money is always hard to come by for me. Whatever your story is, you have normalized that so much that you plan from that normal. Well, if you want to have a different experience, you need to have a new normal. And the only way you have a new normal is if you practice the new normal. And what is so fucking incredible about this work is you don't have to go out and buy a $90,000 car to normalize it. You can start normalizing it now, right? And these are things that I did. I also want to tell you, in addition to what I'm building, I did it to be in this house and to drive the current car that I drive. So I'll tell you the car story first. I currently drive a 2021 Hyundai Palisade. And this is during COVID, when the Palisades and the Tellurides, they were so hot. They were such a good price point. And I got like the fully loaded, again, I picked it off of like, we want this, we wanted this. I want the fully loaded one. We made a deposit. It came in, we bought the car. And I love that car, right? I absolutely positively love that car. But it was probably and it was probably about an 18-month process of when we started looking at cars. We drove the Telluride, we drove the Palisade, we went and drove like the Chevy and the Ford. Do we want to spend more money? Is it worth spending more money? Like, we did all of the research. And then one day we just bought the car, and then it was just my car, right? Again, same thing. It was exciting. I loved it. Everybody likes driving a new car, but it wasn't like holy buckets, right? Same thing with the home that I live in. When my kids were little, we lived about, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 miles from here. And what at the time was our dream house, because we had built it. It was new construction. We went in, made all the selections, built everything exactly the way that we wanted it to. But we very quickly realized that we were going to outgrow that house. When we had Georgia, we had my ex-husband has a daughter who's 21. So we had Isabella, and then, Davis and Georgia. Now we're in this 4-bedroom house. I'm working from home. We need this space, all this other stuff. And at the time, we had kids who were car nappers, and Davis and Kevin and I, we would drive through the current neighborhood that I lived. Like, when we would go for a drive with the kids napping in the car, it was more Davis than Georgia, because Georgia was 1 when we moved into this. But we would drive through this neighborhood, and we knew the streets of this neighborhood. We knew all the names of the roads. We knew where we would want to live before we bought a house here. And then one day, my realtor at the time, she just called and she was like, hey, I'm getting ready to list a house in Creekmore. I want you to come look at it. And I still wasn't prepared. And 6 weeks later, I'm moving into this house because I had normalized driving through this neighborhood. Right? So I know that this process works because that's how I created this, right? As I started normalizing it, it wasn't crazy to drive through this neighborhood, because the first time I did drive through this neighborhood, I will tell you, I was mind blown. I was mind blown. These houses on the golf course, and some really big houses, some really cool outdoor spaces, some really big price points, money that I'd never spent before, right? So, but by the time I lived here, I'd looked at so many houses and I'd normalized the dollar amount so much that it was just the logical step. Was it uncomfortable? Was I pushing myself a little bit? Totally, right? But it wasn't so outlandish that I couldn't normalize it, right? I couldn't take it in. So this is what's really, really important. I'm going to land the plane for this because I know I've given you an abundance of examples and I think that that's important. But it's practicing it. It's doing it. How can you be that person today? And again, I want to tell you this. I'm not asking you to go out and do anything irresponsible. Okay. I want to be very clear on that. I'm not saying go out and spend money that you do not have. I'm telling you to start normalizing the things that you say that you want. Because like I said, as long as it feels like holy bananas, that would be so different and so dramatically different than where I'm at. As long as it feels that way, even if you were able to effort your way into calling it in, you would always have the fear of losing it. And I speak from personal experience on this one, guys, right? When you call something in from a misaligned energy, there's always the fear of it could go wrong. So what I have been doing very intentionally, what I teach my clients to do, and like I said, I like to tell my own stories because it just makes more sense to me. But if I only thought in reaction to my current P&L, where my business is today, my current bank accounts, my current house, my current star, you stay locked into your current state. If you make all of your decisions from your current bank account and your current business and your current earning potential, your life will not change that much. That's actually what happens to most people is they stop thinking past their current state. And so that's why you have this Groundhog Day feeling of your life. And no matter how hard you work and how much you do, you can never call in more because you're only normalizing what you can see. You're not normalizing anything grander. And then you got to process all the emotions that come along with like shooting for something big, right? And this is why I say creation happens identity first, right? You have to decide what is the vision. This is exactly what we do in Free and Rich. What's your vision? Who is that woman who has that life? And then our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions have to align. Most people do this backwards. We think we want to start acting. I want to make more money, so I'm going to start acting like the person. I'm going to start taking action from that place. But if the thoughts and the feelings don't align, that's where we get stuck. Because again, action is the final step of the process and the least important part of the process of creation. But it is the place where most people go. And like I said, this is why you can force and hard work your way into $1 million year. But if you haven't done the identity work, the thinking and the feeling and the normalizing, the sustainability becomes really, really hard. Okay. Couple of things I have for you. I mentioned at the beginning, the identity practice, it is completely free. I recently added, guys, an identity audit. So this is a private one-on-one 7-day experience where I'm going to give you my teaching on identity, right? I go deep into identity and really establishing the identity of the woman running your dream life. We do a one-on-one call together. It's 45 minutes. And then we're working together 7 days, messenger to messenger, really developing that identity. So if you're like, I can't figure out where my gap is, I can't figure out why I can't, like, I hear you, Ryan, I'm listening to you, but like nothing is changing in my life. Start with the identity audit. It's $1,000. It's one-on-one. It's private. It's a deep dive. It will change your life. I've done this work over and over again. So I want you to start there, right? Really identifying those gaps, start normalizing the next levels. That is what I'm excellent at. I am a huge thinker. And my clients tell me this all the time. Like, you think so big and so clearly, Ryan. And that's the thing is I pull you up with me, right? My ability to see is what we hook into. That's why energy is so fucking powerful. So again, do the work, guys. Do the identity practice. It is the number one easiest way. Completely free, linked in my bio. If you want me to mirror back to you the places where you can't even see your stuff because they're so subconscious, book your identity audit. It's only $1,000. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours, and your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.